This is Jack Whitby from JCAD Pictures, and I'm going to be talking about our draft storyboard for our thriller film. So what I've decided to do with this draft is do one complete full draft, which consists of 4 pages of the actual camera shots and scenes that are in the opening 2 minutes, and then I did 2 extra sheets so that any shots that we wanted to change or didn't quite like, I could switch out and change to what we thought they would look better and what our target audience wanted. So the first shot we did was it faded in. Our protagonist is going to be running through a forest. So we've kind of changed. I decided to change this to a tracking shot of the legs. So this was the first example of when I did this. I was kind of thinking at the time of having the audience engaged. But instead I realised that the audience, from my questionnaire and from my inspiration film, that the tracking shot of the legs from Silence of the Lambs was actually quite popular, and it definitely stood out to me when I was watching it, that camera shot, and it also stood out to the people I asked in the questionnaire earlier in the month. So it kind of all links in to have this running shot. I mean, it's going to create real tensity because if you imagine it fades in and then there's just tracking shot of legs, it's really going to engage the audience because they're like, why is he running? What is he running from? Whereas an over-the-shoulder kind of grabs them straight in. But that doesn't mean to say that I'm not going to use the over-the-shoulder, because I then just boosted it down to the 3rd shot on the list where we can have an over-the-shoulder, because I didn't want to get rid of the over-the-shoulder completely because it's the type of film we're doing. We want to engage the audience. So as we engage the audience, they're going to feel more involved in the film. They're going to feel as if they're a part of it. So we wanted a lot of over-the-shoulders, point-of-view shots so that they feel more engaged. And these kind of shots also build a bit more intensity, like the tracking shot, because it feels the audience are there. They're in the same danger that the protagonist is in. So they're going to feel kind of more effects, which is what we want in this thriller film. And the draft itself it's detailed itself. We wanted the non-diegetic tense music running throughout the film. The only point this will stop is in the flashback scene, which is on page 2 of the storyboard sheet. And the shot we've tried to have is a point of view, so the protagonist is going to run out, look left, see a moped, and then as they turn to the other way, they see the mysterious biker standing there watching him like this from a distance. And then we're going to have a shot where we're going to run up and then speed it up so it looks like it's going really fast towards him. And as that goes, fade into the flashback, which will be in black and white. And during the flashback, we haven't quite decided yet. We're having a debate during our team because some of us thought that we should have non-diegetic kind of like an autistic guitar, I think is the right name, and a violin playing, so it's very subtle, very calm kind of noise. And then non-diegetic drum beat when you see the biker in that flashback. Whereas we also were debating whether to just have complete silence throughout this scene, because then it kind of builds more tension. It builds more tension to the scene itself. You know, it's kind of eerie in a sense. But one thing that was going to be a common mistake, I know, is we've also got a shot of the biker. So this is going all the way on page 3 now, but the biker we were going to have standing outside the window, and obviously then the protagonist sees the biker. We're actually going to maybe change this to the indoors for the actual well-presented storyboard, because indoors we can kind of get that nice kind of, why is he in that house? It makes it that bit more scary that he's in there. And especially in the house that we're filming in for this scene, it's a very creepy kind of hallway. So this way it kind of gives that feel, like that kind of creepy, mysterious feel to it. Why is he in that house? And also when we were test shooting, when we looked outside the window, it was reflecting back on us, so you could see everyone in the kitchen. And we didn't think that looked very professional, so we're going to stick with this. But people are going to think he's actually in the house. But actually what this connotes is that he's in there because she is still thinking in the present day. So he's getting towards her in the present day, but in the flashback it looks like he's in the house. Whereas in that point in time in the flashback, which they'll find out later in the film, he's never actually in the flashback. He's just there because she sees him in the present day. It's very confusing because we wanted a complex storyline, because it kind of brings the whole film together in some ways without overdoing it. But for the shot that we're using, it will look like he's there, which gives it a very creepy feel. But it all resolves itself in the end to find out that he wasn't actually there at that time. It was just because he was getting closer. So between the two characters, the protagonist and the antagonist, the protagonist in the opening 2 minutes is going to look very weak. He doesn't know what's going on, he's very out of it, he can't remember anything, his memory's gone. So using a lot of high angle shots, worm's eye view, kind of, high angle shots for the protagonist and a lot of point of view shots to show they're in danger. Whereas for the antagonist, we're using a lot of low angle shots to get the big feel of this big guy that we've got to play the mysterious biker as he walks towards him. And we've also going to have a worm's eye view of his shoe getting crushed against the grass, and that kind of brings the whole thing together of his big destructive legs, feet crushing around, and it's making the protagonist look very weak, very light-footed, running away. However, we don't want the protagonist to look too weak, so the cast we've got is fairly big. He's not big like the biker, but he doesn't look really, really weak. So we wanted to have that feel like he's an underdog, but he isn't a stranger to danger, and he himself used to work with this guy following him, which the audience will find out later on in the film, which is why he's following him, because he's been corrupted by the terrorists, the protagonist. So he kind of puts it all in his head thinking the antagonist is actually the protagonist, and the protagonist is actually the antagonist once you get further through the film, which is what we meant by a complex storyline. However, for the opening 2 minutes, which we're going to see, it is going to be the protagonist being the person that is running away from the antagonist, the mysterious biker. Another shot that I wanted to point out is we wanted to use some panning shots and tilt-up shots to make the whole thing look better. A tilt-up shot showing who's in power. It kind of gives that a bit more suspense as well. You have a tilt-up to see who's on the moped. It brings that suspense of who's on this moped. What is this monster? And the tilt down kind of says like, oh no, who's in danger? So we want to use some of these, and we're also beginning to use an extreme close-up of the eye, because using an extreme close-up of the eye, we can, when she closes it in the flashback, it kind of shows that everything's shutting down, and then opens it again in the present day, and that realization where he is, it makes it quite scary. So that's what we wanted to use an extreme close-up. And we wanted to very, very much shots. We didn't want to use the same old shots. The only shot we decided we're not going to use is a bird's eye view shot, because if you use the bird's eye view shot, it's kind of from above. It's very hard to do in the location that we chose, the forest and the house, and we feel like it's not really necessary for our type of film, because you don't want to use every single camera shot in existence for a single film if that's not the style of your film. And the style of our film is kind of engaging the audience, having them with them. So that's why we're using point of views over the shoulders and shots like this, rather than having bird's eye view shots, which kind of more feels like you're on fly on the wall type kind of movie, rather than the intense thriller that it is. And on the remake sheets that I've done, I decided to have more creative shots and also put some of the normal shots in as well. So we didn't really have many just normal shots, like long shots, close-ups. We kind of went for like the kind of more complex ones, like pans and a dolly shot when it goes into the helmet and out. I felt like we need to keep some of it simple, because sometimes simplicity does look best, which is why I didn't want to go over the top of the camera shots. So as you can see on these ones, I'll put pictures up on the screen if I haven't already. Kind of like I had two worm's eye view shots that I was going to add in, which we may not use. Panning shot, as you can see, we got low angles, over the shoulder, medium shots, and I feel like we need to keep it more simple than go over the top of the complexity. Otherwise, it's going to look. The more complex it is, sometimes it can actually make a film look worse, and the camera will look worse. And in our preliminary task, the camera work was good, so we need to keep that simple kind of shots that we use with the occasional complex ones in there to get those high marks and make this look as realistic as we can to a proper film. So overall, this draft storyboard has allowed us to kind of experiment with a few shots and see which ones we think is better, and we have been over to the set that we're going to use and filmed some shots that we might use, and some look better than others. So now we've done this storyboard and that, it will allow us to move on to the well presented storyboard, which I will do, which will look so much better and have a clear understanding of what our thriller film is going to be.